Tech? You barely passed high school math. My brother Marcus laughed across the Thanksgiving dinner table, his investment banker smirk perfectly calibrated to maximize condescension. Dad, tell her she's being ridiculous. She wants us to invest in some app idea she sketched on a napkin. My father set down his fork with the deliberate patience of a man about to deliver wisdom to someone too foolish to understand it, while my mother preemptively sighed the sigh of a woman who already decided her daughter needed to just get a normal job. But why did I smile at their dismissal instead of arguing, and why 4 years later? Did my father's hands shake when he saw my signature at the bottom of the letter informing him that his company's rent was about to triple? Sir, the building's been sold, his secretary Margaret had rushed in to announce. New owners restructuring all the leases. There's a letter. My father grabbed the envelope, tore it open, scanned the contents. His face went from confused to disbelieving to something approaching panic. This can't be right. This says the owner is Patterson Technologies, Margaret confirmed. The signature belongs to the CEO. A Ms. Vivian Patterson. My father looked up at his secretary with an expression I wished I could have photographed. That's my daughter. Yes, sir. I know. That silly tech idea had been born in my college dorm room. I'd been studying business administration, not because I loved it, but because my family had made clear that practical degrees were the only ones they'd fund. My real passion was technology, specifically the intersection of artificial intelligence and accessibility tools. My younger cousin had been born deaf. Watching her struggle to navigate a world designed for hearing people had sparked something in me, a conviction that technology should bridge gaps rather than create them. The app I'd conceived would use AI to provide real-time translation of spoken language into visual formats, going beyond simple captioning to include contextual cues, emotional indicators, and environmental sound descriptions. I'd spent 18 months developing the concept, researching the technology, building a prototype on borrowed equipment and free software. When I'd finally felt ready to seek funding, I'd started with family. That had been my first mistake. The Thanksgiving rejection had been comprehensive. My father, Robert Patterson, ran a mid-sized manufacturing company that had been in the family for 2 generations. He understood business, or at least, he understood his business. Technology was foreign territory he decided wasn't worth exploring. You want $50,000 to build an app, he'd asked, his tone suggesting I'd requested funding for a perpetual motion machine. To finish the prototype and file patents. The technology is sound, I've shown it to professors who specialize in AI development, professors. Not business people. Not investors who actually know how to evaluate these things. That's why I need the funding. To get to a stage where professional investors will, Vivian, I've watched tech companies rise and fall for 20 years. For every success story, there are 1,000 failures. I'm not betting on you being the one in 1,000. But if you just look at the research, I've looked at enough. The answer is no. My brother Marcus had been even more dismissive. Silicon Valley is littered with people who thought they had the next big thing. You don't have the technical background, the connections, or honestly, the intelligence to compete in that world. I scored higher than you on every standardized test we ever took. Book smart isn't the same as business smart. I work with tech companies at the bank. I see what it takes to succeed. You don't have it. How would you know what I have? You've never asked about my work, my research, my plans, because I don't need to. Some people are meant to build companies. Some people are meant to work for them. You're clearly the second type. My mother's contribution had been the most quietly devastating. Sweetheart, why put yourself through this stress? Your father can get you a position at his company. Something in administration, maybe marketing. You'd have stability, benefits, a clear path forward. I don't want a clear path in Dad's company. I want to build something of my own. But why technology? You've never shown any particular talent for computers. Because I spent 4 years hiding that interest from a family that would have dismissed it. Like you're dismissing it now. We're not dismissing anything. We're being realistic. Not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. How do you know I'm not? You've never given me the chance to try. We're protecting you from disappointment. Isn't that what parents are supposed to do? I'd left that Thanksgiving with $50,000 in student debt, no family support, and a determination that felt like concrete setting in my bones. If they wouldn't fund my silly tech idea, I'd find someone who would. The first year had been brutal. I'd worked 3 jobs while continuing to develop the prototype. Waitressing provided immediate cash. Freelance graphic design leveraged skills I'd developed in college. Tutoring covered unexpected expenses. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. But the app improved. The AI became more sophisticated. The user interface became more intuitive. What had started as a concept sketched on a napkin evolved into something I could demonstrate. The breakthrough came at a startup competition I'd entered on a whim. The competition prize was $25,000, enough to file patents and hire a part-time developer. More valuable than the money was the exposure. One of the judges was a venture capitalist named Eleanor Hartwell who built her career investing in accessibility technology. She'd approached me after the presentation with a business card and an invitation. Your technology addresses a real need in an underserved market. That's rare. Most pitches I see are solutions looking for problems. Yours is the opposite. Thank you. I've been trying to get investors interested, but without connections. You have a connection now. Call my office Monday. Let's discuss what it would take to get this to market. Eleanor's investment of $2 million was the turning point. She didn't just provide capital, she provided mentorship, introductions, and the credibility that opened doors previously closed to a 24-year-old with no industry experience. The app launched 18 months later. The initial reception was modest but encouraging. Users in the deaf and hard of hearing community responded enthusiastically to features no other app provided. Reviews highlighted the AI's accuracy, the interface's accessibility, the genuine understanding of user needs. Growth was slow at first. Then it accelerated. By year 3, we had 3 million active users. By year 4, we had 12 million, and interest from major technology companies looking to acquire or partner. The valuation came during the Series C funding round. $340 million, the lead investor confirmed. Based on your current growth trajectory, revenue projections, and the strategic value of your technology platform. I'd sat in that conference room, surrounded by lawyers and investors and advisors, and I'd thought about the Thanksgiving table 4 years earlier. You barely passed high school math. We're not wasting money on your fantasy. Just get a normal job. $340 million. That was the value of my silly tech idea. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do with some of that money. The building purchase had been strategic, not impulsive. My father's company, Patterson Manufacturing, leased 3 floors of a commercial building in the downtown business district. They'd been tenants there for 15 years, and the lease terms had been favorable, below-market rent negotiated during an economic downturn. When I learned the building was coming up for sale, I'd moved quickly. The acquisition cost $47 million, a significant investment, but one that made financial sense given the building's potential value and tenant roster. It also made emotional sense. The family that had refused to invest $50,000 in my future would now pay rent to the company they dismissed as a fantasy. The letter informing tenants of the ownership change was professionally written. Standard language about the transition, contact information for the new management company, assurance that existing leases would be honored through their current terms. The rent increase notice that followed was equally professional. Market rate adjustments bringing below-market leases to current valuations. Perfectly legal, entirely standard, and financially devastating for companies that had budgeted based on artificially low payments. My father's company would see their rent triple. That was simply the market catching up to reality. The phone call came 2 days after the letter. Vivian. We need to talk. My father's voice carried none of the confidence I remembered from Thanksgiving dismissals. This was the voice of a man who'd just realized his business expenses were about to explode. Hello, Dad. How can I help you? You know how you can help. This rent increase, it's going to cripple the company. We can't absorb a 200% increase overnight. The new rates are market standard. You've been paying below market for years. Because we negotiated favorable terms. That's how business works. And now the building has a new owner who's bringing rates to market. That's also how business works. Vivian, be reasonable. This is your family's company. Your grandfather built it. Your brother works there. Employees who've been with us for decades will lose their jobs if we can't manage this transition. I remember when I asked my family's company for $50,000 to build something. I was told my idea was silly, that I barely passed math, that I should get a normal job. Silence on the line. That was different. We were trying to protect you. You were trying to control me. There's a difference. The family meeting was called for the following Sunday. I attended knowing exactly what to expect: appeals to family loyalty, guilt about employees who might suffer, arguments that business decisions should be separated from personal grievances. I'd prepared for all of it. The dining room where I'd been dismissed 4 years earlier now hosted a very different conversation. My father sat at the head of the table, looking older than I remembered. My mother flanked him, her expression a complicated mixture of pride and concern. My brother Marcus sat across from me, his investment banker confidence noticeably diminished. We're asking you to reconsider the rent increase, my father began. Not eliminate it, we understand market forces. But perhaps a phase-in period, a gradual adjustment. You're asking for the kind of consideration you didn't extend when I needed help. That was a personal matter. This is business. When you refused to invest in my company, you made a business decision. When I set market rate rent, I'm making a business decision. Why should my business decisions accommodate you when yours didn't accommodate me? Because we're family. I tried the family approach 4 years ago. You barely passed math. We're not wasting money on your fantasy. Just get a normal job. Those were my family's contributions to my dreams. Marcus attempted intervention. Look, I know I was harsh back then. But $340 million? Nobody could have predicted. Eleanor Hartwell predicted it. She invested $2 million when you wouldn't invest $50,000. She saw potential you refused to consider. We were being cautious. Responsible. You were being dismissive. There's a difference between evaluating a proposal and laughing at it. You never evaluated anything. You decided I wasn't capable and worked backward from that conclusion. I made a mistake. You made a choice. A choice that communicated exactly how much faith you had in me, how much respect you had for my abilities, how much support you were willing to provide. And now you're punishing all of us for that choice? I'm running a business. The punishment is coincidental. My mother tried the emotional approach. Vivian, sweetheart, whatever happened in the past, we can work through it. We can rebuild. But destroying your father's company won't make you happy. I'm not destroying anything. I'm charging market rate for premium office space. If the company can't afford market rate, that's a business problem, not a family problem. But you could help. You could choose to help. I could. Just like you could have chosen to help me when I asked. You chose not to. I'm making the same choice. That's so cold. That's not the daughter I raised. The daughter you raised was told her dreams were silly, her ideas were worthless, her math skills were inadequate. Maybe that daughter learned something from how she was treated. The negotiation that followed was pure business. I wasn't interested in revenge, despite what my family seemed to believe. I was interested in fair value and appropriate relationships. Here's what I'm willing to offer, I said, laying out terms I'd prepared in advance. Market rate rent, but with a 2-year transition period. Annual increases of 35% rather than an immediate tripling. That gives Patterson Manufacturing time to adjust budgets, renegotiate contracts, find efficiencies. That's still a significant increase. It's a significant discount from what I could charge. And it's more consideration than you showed me when I needed help. My father studied the proposal. And in exchange? In exchange, you acknowledge, publicly and privately, that you were wrong about me. Wrong about my abilities, wrong about my potential, wrong about my silly tech idea. That's about pride, not business. It's about respect. Something I've never received from this family despite building a company worth $340 million. If you want business consideration, you can offer personal acknowledgement. The acknowledgement came at the next Patterson Manufacturing Board meeting. My father stood before his directors, his employees, his leadership team, and he said words I'd waited years to hear. 4 years ago, my daughter came to me with a business idea. I dismissed it. I told her she wasn't capable of building a technology company. I was wrong. The room shifted uncomfortably. Vivian built Patterson Technologies from nothing into a company valued at $340 million. She did it without family support, without our belief, without the backing that should have come naturally from people who loved her. He paused, and I could see the difficulty of what he was doing. She is now the owner of this building. She could have destroyed us with rent increases we couldn't afford. Instead, she offered reasonable terms and asked for something in return, acknowledgement that we failed her. I'm giving that acknowledgement now. Publicly. My daughter is brilliant, determined, and successful beyond anything I imagined. And I was too blind to see it when she needed me to see it. The relationship that rebuilt from that moment was different from what we'd had before. Not warmer, necessarily, too much damage had accumulated for easy warmth. But more honest. More respectful. Built on the foundation of acknowledged mistakes rather than the pretense that mistakes hadn't happened. My father started asking about my company with genuine curiosity. My mother stopped suggesting I get a normal job. My brother approached me about investment opportunities with the humility of someone who learned what he didn't know. I'm looking at a startup in the accessibility space, he mentioned during one conversation. The founder reminds me of you. Same determination, same blindness from the industry. And what are you going to do differently this time? Listen. Actually listen. And evaluate the idea on its merits rather than my assumptions about the person presenting it. That's growth. That's learning from watching my sister prove everyone wrong. The building remained in my portfolio for 3 years before I sold it. By then, Patterson Manufacturing had stabilized under the new rent structure, and I'd accomplished what I needed, not the destruction of my family's business, but the demonstration that I was someone to be taken seriously. The sale generated a $12 million profit. I donated the entire amount to scholarships for first-generation college students pursuing technology degrees. Students who, like me, might have families who couldn't see their potential. Students who needed someone to believe in them when the people closest to them wouldn't. My cousin Sarah, the deaf cousin whose struggles had inspired the original app, graduated from college last spring. She'd been one of the first beta testers for our product, providing feedback that had shaped critical features. She'd watched me build a company that was built, in many ways, for people like her. You changed the world, she signed to me at her graduation party. You made it easier for people like me to exist in it. I just built a tool. You're the one using it to do incredible things. But you believed the tool mattered. When nobody else did. I believed you mattered. The tool was just how I proved it. The family that dismissed my silly tech idea now owns stock in my company. Not because I gave it to them, because they invested in our Series D round, at valuations that made their earlier refusal look even more foolish. If we'd invested that $50,000 you asked for, my father calculated once, at the current valuation, those shares would be worth about $85 million, I supplied. I've done the math. And you don't hate us for missing that? I don't hate you at all. Hate takes energy I'd rather spend building things. But you remember. You'll always remember that we didn't believe in you. I remember that I believed in myself when you didn't. That's the part that matters now. Patterson Technologies continues to grow. The original accessibility app has expanded into a full platform of AI-powered tools for people with various disabilities. We've been acquired by one of the major technology companies, and I now lead their global accessibility division. The company letterhead that appeared on my father's rent increase notice has been replaced by something even more prestigious. But I keep a copy of that original letter framed in my office. Not as a trophy. As a reminder. A reminder that, no, is just a word, that dismissal is just an opinion, that the people closest to you can be the most blind to your capabilities. A reminder that the best response to being underestimated is simply proving the estimators wrong. They laughed at my silly tech idea over Thanksgiving dinner. Dad said he wouldn't waste money on my fantasy. Mom told me to get a normal job. My brother informed me I didn't have the intelligence to compete in tech. 4 years later, I owned the building where Dad's company rented office space. My signature was at the bottom of the letter, tripling their rent. The company they dismissed as a napkin sketch was worth $340 million. I didn't destroy them, I gave them reasonable terms in exchange for something more valuable than money, acknowledgement that they'd been wrong. They gave it. We rebuilt from there. But I kept the letter. I keep it still. A reminder that the people who won't believe in you create the fuel for proving them wrong. They gave me that fuel. I just burned it better than they expected.